Hi, bookish friends. We are in the season of love, full of books and just all the cozy vibes. Happy February. When this episode comes out, you're going to have some new books to add to your TBR, specifically from the author of The Relationship Mechanic, Karmen Lee. Without further ado, here's the authors. Hi,
Hey,
how are you?
doing pretty good. It's a little cold, but we'll make it work.
Speaking of cold, chilly weather, when you're cold, you can snuggle up, get romantic. As a romance author, what inspires your books? I have to dive right in.
Oh man, a little of everything, to be honest. Like past experiences, movies and books that I've watched and I've read, anime, 100%,
Ooh.
and music, like songs are probably, I'm usually playing music when I'm writing, and so
Mm.
I have a playlist for just about every book that I write, and it just kind of like helps get me in the right like headspace for
Ooh.
whatever scene or chapters that like I'm working on. So yeah, a little bit of everything. Sometimes it's like I've seen a movie and I didn't like how it ended, and I was like, no, but what if they did this? So very much like fan fiction, but in my brain.
I absolutely love that. I actually have a copy of one of your books, The Relationship Mechanic, with me right now. It is absolutely perfect. I love this book so much. It's black, it's sapphic, it's got a small town, it's got all the vibes. And you write yearning so beautifully.
Oh.
So I just adore that about you. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, Carmen, and what got you into writing? What do you listen to when you write?
Yeah. So about me, I'm Carmen. I'm from the South. Originally born in Jersey. Haven't been back since I was like 6 months old. So we don't really count that. I'm originally from Tennessee. That's where most of my family's from. Been in Georgia for, oh man, going on a decade now, I think. So I take a lot of like my inspiration from like I love small towns. I actually am kind of a quintessential Southern girl. I love my front porches. I love sweet tea. I love Southern sensibilities. I love Southern hospitality. I just don't always like small town attitudes. But awesome.
The
Pretty much
tea has
came
been
about,
spilled.
right? Pretty much, like I love small towns. And I think also part of it is like I have a rather large family on both sides. So like my family kind of is a small town in and of itself. Um, and I love like the ridiculousness that happens when you have that few people, I guess, in like a certain space and just everybody knows everybody else's business. It just creates so many fun moments that can be between like families. Like I have six sisters, so like lots of sibling banter comes from my real life, pretty much.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
I like writing about single moms, especially single parents, because I am one. And like a lot of the conversations that happen between the kids and the parents is from my own life. But yeah, a little of everything. I think I kind of got my start. I mentioned fan fiction. I still love fan fiction, and that's kind of how I got my start. I love manga and anime, and I wanted to be an illustrator and a writer when I was younger. So I would
Oh.
like draw and write my own comics when I thought that maybe the episode ended the wrong way. Um, and so that's kind of like how I kept going with it. And then like I wanted to create my own worlds. Um, and then, I told my parents I wanted to be a writer when I got older, and they're like, no, do something that makes money. So I became a teacher. Um, that's stuck it to them because teachers wasn't making money anyway. But but yeah, I kind of like meandered my way back into writing as a ghostwriter, and then finally was like, no, ghostwriting helps pay the bills, but like I have stories that I want to tell. And so it was when Amazon kind of popped off when it comes to back then when it was called Create Space. Um, and so one of the people I was ghostwriting for, she was just like, your books are great. Why don't you try writing some on your own? And I was like, you know what? Why not? Um, And yeah, it just kind of kept going from there. I think the first one I put out of my own was in 2014. Yeah, December 2014. And I just kind of kept going from there. I took about 5 years off, um, and came back really 2020, I think, right when like the pandemic kind of,
Mm.
and I've just been like, I was just like, no, this is it. We're not stopping anymore. So yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. And you haven't stopped. I've noticed so many books that you've read. I hold them very close. Your books have taught me a lot about confidence, speaking up for myself, the beauty of sapphic romances, Black love. There's just so much to learn. And like your books are the epitome of cozy and full of like rom-com goodness.
Oh, good.
Um, they are just that is the energy, and they're absolutely divine. You have Peaches and Honey, The Secret Crush Book Club, Crossroads, A Small Town Sapphic Romance, The 710 Split, The Relationship Mechanic, Cups of You. The list goes on. Out of some of the books that I mentioned, is there any book that you want to expand a little bit about, like what it's about, what inspired you to write it?
Yeah. I think Crossroads is actually the first book that I wrote for myself. It used to be called Open Road 1 and 2. And I like unpublished them, re-edited, and then republished them together as Crossroads.
Mm.
That book is probably like the most near and dear because of just like where I was in life when I started writing that one. Like I was going through a divorce. I was like rediscovering my own sexuality and like figuring things out like as a single mom. I had just moved to Wisconsin, which for a Southern girl like me was just like, what am I doing? Um, and so like that book, especially because it is about a single mom who like is going through a divorce and she's moving back to her hometown and she's figuring her life out and she like rediscovers herself with her former best friend, which sadly did not happen to me. Like I said, fan fiction, so like rewriting my own life, but in book form. Um, but yeah, it was just like a way for me to kind of explore all of the things that I was dealing with at the time. And, because there's certain things like you wouldn't necessarily say out loud. You might
Mm.
think them. And so it was great for me to like work through some of the things that maybe like I wanted to say out loud and just couldn't, or like I
Mm.
wanted to do and couldn't, or just even, daydreaming, but in book form of like, this is how I wish things would go. Um, and so, yeah, that's probably like, it's interesting now just because I wrote that back in 2014 and 2015. And so it's been a decade longer. We're in 2026 now. My goodness. So it's been a whole zodiac cycle since that first book really came out. And so it's interesting now to kind of go back and look at it. And like I said, I was re-editing it, ran it back through betas and other author friends, took out some parts where I was just like, no, now that my understanding of like sapphic romance has kind of deepened, I was
Mm.
like, no, I don't really like this representation in here. I'm going to pull this out. Um, it's interesting now because it's by far like for my indie books, it's one of my most read indie books. And I just republished it in April of 2025. And I think it was one of those that it just came at like the perfect time. It was kind of on the heels of the relationship mechanic, that people really resonated with it. I think especially these days, you have, if you look at TikTok, there are a lot of women that are getting divorced and coming out later in life,
Mhm.
when they already have, like me, have a child. You've, you know, had 10, 15, 20 years of an adult experience, and now you have to relearn yourself all over again. And so I think that resonated with a lot of people, which made me feel really good. It's also why, other than Crossroads, I think the Secret Crush Book Club is probably like my second favorite, just as far as like how it speaks to me, like where I am in life,
Mm.
of being a single parent and like learning what the hell dating is again. What is this? Apps, who, where, what is a hinge? I thought that was on the door. Like, what are we? And so, yeah, it's interesting, like hearing too, like which books resonate with other readers and like
Mhm.
where people are. Because I think looking at my entire catalog, you kind of can almost see what part of my life was going on at the time based on like what's in the book.
Ooh, what part of your life is happening during the 710 split?
So 710 split is definitely like coming home and realizing that you don't have to have your entire life figured out just because you hit a certain age.
Mm.
You know, it's very much like, oh, you're 30, you're 35, you should know exactly what you want out of life. And that's not necessarily true. Um, I think there's now I can't remember if I think it's in the 710 split, but like there was one line that I wrote and I had to pause and just go, "Oh, I need to explore that with my therapist." Because
Oh,
I think I
wow.
just had a breakthrough myself where it's just
Mm.
like sometimes the book like starts, but it's not necessarily on chapter one, and that's okay. And so it's just like, huh, hmm, okay, all right. We're working through some things here. Like this is good. This is progress.
I
Um,
love the vulnerability. Like your books always have a character who's somewhat vulnerable and clear, and their voice is very unique. Each book, the love interest and the main character feel like full blown, like fleshed out people you would meet in real life.
hmm.
And the 710 split, I low key feels like perfect for anyone who loves like Abbott Elementary. It is set in a school.
Yeah.
You got a science teacher, you have an English teacher, you've got high school sweethearts, maybe like bowling. There's a lot going on.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm a
yeah.
former teacher, and so like I had to show love, and I think that's probably if you look at a lot of my different books, that is probably my um job for my characters that pops up the most is a teacher because that's what I know. And also, I think people don't realize, but like the school is just another like microcosm of life. There's so much that goes on in a school. Like people would ask me, do students really care about teachers' lives that much? Yes. Yes. They are so nosy and they are like in it and because they're in the building for 8 hours a day. So
That's true.
the teachers are their reality like that is their reality TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
The
know?
rumors where it's like the English teacher, everyone knows they're really dating the gym teacher. Ooh, her real name's Nancy. Like,
Or even like I still remember one scene that especially like I had some of my friends who like baited it. Were like, is this something that really happens? Because they're not teachers. Where like they were at the bowling alley, they're getting ready for practice, and one of the students is like, you know, teacher, did you notice the other coach's hair today? Doesn't it look so nice and different? And they're like angling for things. Like 100% the stuff happens in the school. Like the students are all up in there. It's
love to see it. Someone
so
has to match make. Someone has to make it
oh,
happen. All
100%.
right.
Oh, listen, and I'll just say in my high school scandal, ours was the security guard, or I guess they call them resource officers now, the resource officer and our health teacher.
Ooh.
And it
Well,
was
I'm sure he was
mask
keeping her
for
very safe.
it was a
Is
mask for mask situation,
oh wow.
right? We were
I
like,
love to see it.
in
Ooh,
it. There is not a film in
in
this coupling.
it.
We are here for it. So
Here
yeah,
for
we
it.
loved it. We loved it. It was the
Listen.
best time. The best time. We're just like the resource officer has been near the gym quite often lately.
The gym is very secure. Most
Right?
secure place on campus, some would say. Dilly
Exactly.
dally, some would say. Oh, you know what? The tea is hot. I remember my PE teacher had a pixie cut, and everyone thought like she has to be gay, gots to be gay. Well, when her husband pulled up to pick her up for her lunch break, we all discovered quite quickly that she was married to a very kind man named Jim. And we all had to acknowledge that. She loved
Yeah.
the gym to work out and she loved her husband Jim. And that's okay. A
You know
pixie
what?
cut is not does not make us lesbian.
And
Maybe
you
some people just like that bomb ass haircut.
Listen, because I mean, and some people pull it off very well,
And
regardless
some people pull
of
it off
wrestling.
very well. And
So
that's totally cool.
yeah.
Sexuality is also hella fluid. I think there's something really beautiful about seeing masks get lots of love and attention and compassion and softness, and seeing femmes who are the givers of that, or who are large givers. I feel very seen in some of your books, witnessing that, where it's like, finally, someone has said it. I have a huge heart and I wanted to give it to someone. And it's I love that about your books. Speaking of, I really adore the Secret Crush book club, and I would love for you to talk about it with listeners for folks who haven't read it yet. So how would you describe it for folks who have never heard of your book before?
I would describe it as a hug. Um, because yeah, you have I love Danny, who is one of the main characters. Um, Danny is probably the character that is the closest to me as like personality and where she is in life. Because she is a single mom. She's been divorced for a while. She's like figuring things out, but she's also like having that moment where everything is changing.
Mm.
Her younger sisters have paired up. They really have their own lives now because all of them have been living in the family house since their mother passed away. And, they've gone off. They're doing their own thing now. Her son is getting older. He's doing his own thing. He's in middle school, which is very reminiscent of my own life right now with my son being in middle school and, doing his own thing. Even her dad, he's out at the rec center playing bingo, with the other, older people in the town. So she is now just like, it opens up with her being home and everybody is going their own way and she's just kind of like, okay, now what?
Mm.
And I feel like regardless of age, because Danny is 30, and I think 30 is one of those ages where you're kind of like, okay, like I said, you're supposed to have everything figured out now,
Yeah.
according to, whatever sitcom, um,
Hell yeah. Every
you
TV
know,
show.
every TV show. But she's realizing that because she spent so many years surviving,
Mm.
now there's calm. She doesn't know what to do with herself when she's not in survival mode,
Oof.
you know?
Don't me wait. Hold on. Wait. I feel like the meme it goes and I ooh,
Yeah.
but I'm sitting here
You
and I'm like,
know?
oh, she sees me. She really
Yeah.
sees me. I
That's
am
what.
not a single mom. I've got midnight, and that is the only son I have. Um, I cannot claim to have created a human. I am not that strong, but I'm like, wow, yeah, survival mode's real. It's very real.
Yeah. They're out of survival mode and her sisters, they're older now. Even Vinny, who's the youngest, turned 23 and she's running her own business and she's got her own girlfriend and she's jet setting and she's doing this. And Ava and Grace, they're doing their bowling thing and they're at the school and, her dad is out and about, her son is out and about. And so now she's just like, what do I do when I'm not doing for others? And so she's trying to figure her own self out and like who she is as a person, which I know I've gotten some feedback from other mothers, especially that like,
Mm,
oh, snap, that is a thing where you're like, you've been a mom so long that you've kind of forgotten who you are, or you've been
mm,
a sister for so long that you've forgotten who you are, or you've been a daughter for so long that you've forgotten who you are. And so I think anyone that's going through kind of a transition period will probably see themselves in Danny quite a bit
mm,
as the sisters. Zoe is my lover girl. I love Zoe. Um, Her and Danny kind of have the same issue in that Zoe likes to give more of herself, but doesn't necessarily realize that she shouldn't give more of herself to everybody.
mm.
Because there are definitely those people that will take advantage of that. Um,
Me. Oh. Oh.
but
Wow, that is so powerful. Oh my gosh.
but she also
Whoa.
really really represents kind of, at least for me, like realizing my queerness, that like I feel like for so long when I was younger, people were like, well, if you are part of the Alphabet Mafia, like you don't have kids and like the picket fence and the dog or the cat, you don't have this quote unquote like apple pie life kind of thing. But Zoe, especially because her and her brother, like, and I'll just try not to give too much of the book, but like they lost their parents at a young age. And so she's always wanted, and her brother is in the armed service, so like moving a lot. She's always wanted that like stable life. She wants that like small town. She wants everybody to know her name. She like wants that stability. So they kind of see in each other what they're looking for, even if they're not completely sure how to get there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's love if you can describe it. You know where you want to go, but you don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes time. It takes time. I recently had someone say to me that being vulnerable is incredibly scary.
Hmm.
And I think that goes for anyone at any age. It's very scary to go into a book and not know what's going to happen next. That's that's
Yeah.
part of the adventure, to go into love and not know, you know, are we looking for the same thing? Are we receiving the same thing in this moment? Like, are you feeling the things I'm feeling?
Yeah.
Um, at any age, that's scary. And the older you get, the more you have in your life, the more you have to your story. No one's a blank slate. If you are a baby. And I'm sitting here, you are literally, you have not yet lived, made mistakes, um, said things you look back on and you like cringe at yourself.
Oh my God.
Um,
The cringe
but
is real.
just comes with time and experience, and not taking yourself too seriously and creating things outside of yourself. You've created these worlds you talk about. As a little kid you wanted to be a writer, and now you are, and that's amazing. I just sometimes keeping a moment to be like, you did that, you're doing it
Full
right
circle.
now. uh,
Yeah.
that's
It's
so
weird
cool.
sometimes. Yeah.
And I guess a broad question for you, because you write such beautiful romance, and we're gonna dive into some of your upcoming books right up soon.
Mhm.
Um, how would you describe love, and how do you think that like the best way to depict love in books is? Like, is it a slow burn? Is it a second chance romance where someone comes back around? Is it forgiveness? Is it passion? How would you describe love?
Chapters. Because I mean, well, because when you were saying everything, I was like, yes. And then you say the next one, I was like, yes. It is. It's so multifaceted and it changes. Like it feels like, and it also is so very personal too, because everyone is different and how people want to be loved is different and how they want to love others is different. And so it's kind of like all those things, but it's also chapters because even in your life, the way that you want to love changes. So,
Mm.
when I was younger, 100% for me, I still remember, like you say, in some of the conversations where you're like, oh my God, so cringe now that I think about it, was like wanting that like fast burning passion. And when someone couldn't give that to me, I was like, well, then they're not doing it right. But now, like I said, at my grown age of 40, someone's like wanting super fast, like, and I'm just like, listen, I'm tired. Okay. That's great. You're a wonderful person, but also I'm exhausted and I'm overstimulated, and unmedicated. So like we need to like slow the roll. So, but in other times, I'm like, yeah, 100%. Like, let's go. We're doing it. And it's all of those things. But I think love is like knowing yourself and knowing what you want
Mm.
and knowing what you can provide. And
Ooh.
so yeah, I feel like it's all of those things, but it's definitely I think chapters. Chapters, if I had to like sum up in one word, it would be chapters for me because chapters are always changing and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's something you need to learn and other times it's a chapter that's like feels wonderful and everything is great and it's perfect. But then, like, 3 chapters later, maybe there's some conflict that you have to figure out. So yeah, it's always evolving, I think.
Ooh, that was the perfect answer. Oh my gosh. Me, tell me you're a writer without telling me you're a writer. You. Well, the depth of love is only as deep as we allow it to go. Me. Oh, oh my God, you're a genius. If you were an actor, I feel like you would be this like graceful, everlasting black fairy queen. So,
Oh, I like that
yeah,
description.
that would be the energy, like Angela Bassett.
Stop it.
We were
Stop
discussing
it.
this before the episode even started.
Yes.
We need some grown black established women. And we need them in the book world. We need them now. Don't get me
Yes.
wrong. I love my youngins where I've never kissed anyone like this before. Whoa. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. That's fine. But for the folks out here who are like, girl, don't tell me what the ancient texts. I was there when they were written. I
Listen,
need, I need
100%.
I need them in the book world now. For anyone who fell in love with Queen Latifah and set it off like I did,
Oh my gosh. I
write the
will
book.
never,
Please. I
that
know you're
woman
busy. I know you're busy.
will never
Please.
know my name more than likely, but I know everything about her. That sounded really creepy. But no, she
She's a
is
national treasure. I think that's dedication.
100%.
Respectfully.
Queen Latifah is everything. Just cut the cameras. Like that's it. Queen Latifah is everything.
She's doing everything she can to keep our country afloat, keep our hearts bright. Angela's also doing the work. I
Yeah.
It broke my heart. Spoiler alert. When Angela Bassett dies in Black Panther 2, spoiler alert. If you haven't seen it yet, what are you doing? Same thing with Sinners. When our queen, when our magical empress dies, I was like, so we just gonna kill all the baddies out here? Damn.
Just done.
Nobody.
We're done.
We had two Jordans, we left with one, barely. And I'm sitting here and I was
Barely.
like, this is tough. This is tough. If you ever wanted to write a fan fiction about a magical, curvy, wonderful woman in the woods who bumps into a dark, gorgeous vampire at night who she like services with magic,
Let it be known. When that book comes out, let it be known it started.
let me know. Just acknowledge me. Acknowledge me. Just in the just I'll just do a little credit. Thank you for this idea. I love it. Say less. I don't need a red
Oh,
dime. All I need is curvy magical woman, vampire leaning against a tree. You waiting for me? I'm telling you. Come on. Come on. Blade, but gay. Come
listen.
on.
I mean, Blade was already gay. Let's just be
That's
real.
true. That haircut was a little too crisp. A little too crisp. The
Eyebrow.
fade was a little too good.
Eyebrow. Mm.
Listen, I hear if you ever want me, every queer author ever, you think about fantasy? You think about fantasy? I think you should. I think you should consider.
I mean, there might be something in the works.
Ooh,
Just
okay. And that's fine. And that's fine. When the time's right, when the time is right and the moon hits exactly in the right parameters, then I will know.
yes.
Speaking of fantasy and sapphic and anthologies, the 10th Muse Rebellion anthology is coming out soon. It's coming out this year. Can you tell us a little bit about that mafia romance short story that you have coming out?
Yeah. So I think I talked about it maybe last year. I love my rom-coms. I love my small towns. I love especially like just being able to write so much Black queer joy in all of those as well. But I think one thing that the past few years has given me is a good well of rage to pull from. And that is kind of how it started. I always had a few ideas in my head of like slightly darker stories to write. I love dark romance. I read dark romance as well. I joke to people, especially like my good friends. I'm like, okay, when I die, please remove my AO3 tags and such from my bookmarks bar before you give whoever will have my computer. Um, but I think just because of the like going through some of the 90s and late 2000s like bury your gaze situations, I wanted to write a lot more queer joy, period. Like I wanted to write small towns where, you know, bigotry and homophobia was not really a thing. Like you don't really see that in Peach Blossom
Mhm.
and won't, just quite frankly. Um, so I wanted to write the queer joy. But I think one interesting thing and like conversations that have come up is when people think about Sapphic stories, they're like, oh, they're very sweet and they're very wholesome. And it's like they can be because that's people. But ultimately,
True.
people are angry. Like,
Also true.
especially Black women are
Also true.
angry. Like, just because we're smiling and we don't show you our anger doesn't mean that we don't have anger. And
Mm.
we should be able to show it without the whole like Black angry woman stereotype, archetype situation. I'm just like very much justifiable rage. Um, and so I really wanted to write something darker. And when that anthology popped up, because I have a Patreon, and so I had already started writing Mine, Yours, Ours as a serial on Patreon. And when that anthology popped up and I saw the call for it as well as the organization that the money would be benefiting, I was like, oh, this is perfect. And I have the perfect short because I wasn't sure if I wanted to turn it into a full book just yet or if I just wanted to keep it short so I could kind of explore and see how it feels.
Mhm.
Because I'm very much a vibe writer as well. Um, and so when I reached out and when Sarah, who is like putting it together as well, reached out to me, I was like, I think I might have the perfect story. And writing it felt so good. And because it's much shorter, like I couldn't delve into as much as I wanted to, which is why I was like so happy that I had already started Mine, Yours, Ours. Um, but it's been really nice to be able to just kind of be a little bit more unhinged with my female characters, especially because I did a little bit with Ava and the 710 split. And I had people who were just like, Ava was a bitch. And I was like, yes, she was. I think like sometimes people thought maybe I would be like, no, she's not. She's just misunderstood. No, she was a bitch. There's nothing wrong with that. She had a backstory. Like there were reasons. And I think my favorite thing too about writing characters and like these women characters who are flawed and who do have moments where they put their foot in their mouth because who doesn't? Or they don't respond to a situation in the healthiest of ways because also who doesn't? Was going to a book club when the relationship mechanic came out and we get a little bit more of Ava's backstory and why she is the way she is. And I had another Black woman who was a reader come up to me and she's like, once you explain that, I was like, oh, this is me. This explains some of why like I've responded in certain ways. And like that was like, yes, that's exactly what I wanted it to be like. And those moments are just super satisfying because I
Mm.
think especially with like Black women characters and just generally also women characters, there's this idea that they have to be flawless and perfect, otherwise they are deeply unliked as
Mm.
characters. And for me, I'm just at this point, especially at my age and writing, I'm just like I don't care. Like, you think my character's a bitch? That's probably how I wrote her. So good. Like, okay, that's fine. That's what she was supposed to be. That's how she feels because of what was going on. Um, but yeah, so with a lot of my characters, I feel that way. But it's been really nice to explore kind of like the darker sides of how people respond to situations because I can't, as I tell people, I can't kill people in real life. So let me do it on the page.
You know, people do it in horror all the time. They do it in the horror genre, they do it in the thriller genre all of the time. I think in romance, it's okay to express anger, frustration, mental health. I think it would be nice to see more adaptations of anxiety and depression in a romance story and what it looks like to love someone, be there for someone who's experiencing that. I can only think of like one or two books where I've seen that done well as someone who experiences anxiety and someone who's dated someone who has depression. I haven't seen that very often in books. usually the golden retriever character in a sapphic romance is this permanently happy, bubbly person who's experienced a lot of bad stuff, but somehow remains happy amongst it all. It would be
Yeah.
nice to see adaptations where it's like they have depression and there are bouts of time when that takes over,
Yeah.
or when they are in therapy or they have a regimen for a reason, like, or they're type A for a reason. Like, I think that it deepens the character. And I know we read in order to escape real life. Most listeners have expressed this.
Mhm.
Um, but there's something so powerful about reading a book that holds a mirror to parts of you or even parts of people you love, and it actually helps you like grow after the book is over.
Yeah.
Your books have been like a weighted blanket for me. They're grounding in the best way. And there are romances that anyone can read. They are romances that anyone can let into their heart, and it will genuinely make your life so much better. And it's just so good. And I wanted to bring up Her Kind of Love, which is a special book that you have coming very soon. And I'm going to link on your link to Instagram below and all links to everything. But Her Kind of Love, can you tell me a little bit about that book, where folks can find that book, and what sparked that story for you?
Yeah, so Her Kind of Love is a Sapphic collection. It's going to be a collection of 4 books. So two of them are in Hickory Springs. They're Crossroads and Peaches and Honey. Crossroads, I've talked a little bit about. Peaches and Honey it's still a rom-com, but I've started really like layering in some different experiences that I think people have the older that they get. And one of
Mm.
those experiences is losing someone who's, you know, essentially part of your older generation. And part of that was sparked because, I've lost uncles and aunts, and, you see people who, growing up, like they were the 40 and 50-year-olds when you were growing up. And now, sadly, they're passing on, and just kind of like that experience. And how do you handle that once you are not a child? Because I think
Mm.
in a lot of ways, a lot of times people explore that with like kids and dealing with loss, which is very important. But I think there's something to be said, at least, for me being in my 40s and now having these conversations with my parents where we talk about, you know, being an executor of a will, and, here's where titles and deeds and everything are, here is, I lost my uncle this past fall, and my dad and my sisters and we sat down at dinner, and he was like, here's what I do and don't want when I pass away. And having those like frank conversations, which are very uncomfortable, frankly, to have, of course, but like it's a part of life. And so that part of that kind of sparked Peaches and Honey, and I wanted to bring that in and kind of explore also still, you know, Honey being in a situation where she's just kind of coasting on life. She's not really going forward or backward. She's just kind of existing in the space at the moment. Um, and for Mimi, she had a past injury and she's not where she thought she would be in life, but she's still relatively happy. But now she's just lost this partner. Honey has lost her aunt, who she never really had a chance to like bridge the gap with and explore what that feels like, where you kind of lost the chance to fix things, but you still have to go on. And so that's Peaches and Honey. It actually got even a little uncomfortable sometimes for me to write and like explore those feelings, to the point where actually a friend of mine read it and then she texted me and she's like, "Do you need a hug?" And I was like, "Probably. Thank you. Also, did you like the book?" And she's like, "I loved it, but also, do you need a hug?" Um, So yeah, like exploring those worlds, but also still finding joy, because you still, even when you're going through that, you have to find happiness. Um, book 3 rather, in that collection is Autumn's Embrace, which is another small town that I completely made up in Hickory Springs, Georgia, which doesn't actually exist, but it's close to, or it's Autumn Springs, Georgia, which is close to Hickory Springs, Georgia. Um, but that one explores a little bit more, once again, like, what's going on in this day and age. One of the characters gets laid off. She is having trouble finding a new job. She has to move back in with her parents. She thought she'd be further in life and like feels like this is a step back. And she gets back in town and she realizes that she feels so comfortable there. But it's also very confusing because she thought it would just be quick and go. And then she reunites with a former friend and realizes that maybe she missed something. Maybe there was something there that she wasn't quite getting. Um, and then the final one that has never been released. And I put out a threads earlier saying that like y'all don't understand. I have so many novellas that I'm just sitting on and I haven't released them yet because I don't want to do too many releases. Um, because then I have to market everything. And marketing and social media is really hard. But I love this story. It's another one. It's messy. And the way that only I feel like only like lesbian relationships can be.
Preach. Oh, who said that? Oh,
Oh.
complicated, layered, passionate.
Later.
With great love comes great responsibility.
With great love comes great mess.
Oh.
But yeah, that and also like exploring sibling dynamics. I think you'll find in a lot of my books, I do have characters that have siblings, multiple siblings at that, because I have multiple siblings and I don't even understand what it's like to not have siblings. Um, but in this one, it's never been released. It's never been on any platform, not on Patreon, not on my website, not on Amazon, like nothing. And it's two friends who haven't really talked for the past few months because their siblings were engaged at one point, and then their engagement broke off. But the two of them have always thought there was something there. But because their older siblings got together first, they were like, this is not going to be a Brady Bunch situation.
Mm.
But now that their siblings have broken up and that nobody knows why, but now, because they have mutual friends, they are at a mutual friend's Valentine's Day weekend celebrating. And they're in the middle of nowhere. They're in a small town once again, because I love my small towns. And now they're kind of confronted with feelings that, like, there's no barriers really now anymore. Or are there? How do they handle this? And it's a vineyard, so the wine is flowing and it's very like Little Mermaid, just kiss the girl. And then trying to figure out like, okay, oh no, now there's only one bed. How do we handle this situation? What if our family finds out? What do we do after this weekend? So yeah, I'm super excited about that
Love
one. I've
it.
been holding on to this Valentine's story. At first I thought I was just going to release this one as a surprise. But I really wanted to do something big. I've done a couple of book boxes now and I love doing them. And I woke up and was just like, I'm super single and Valentine's Day is coming up and this is really rude. Maybe I'll do like a Valentine's book kind of situation. And I should
Hmm.
I should write Valentine's cards for readers that want to buy the book and like that way they have a Valentine's present. And so yeah, it just kind of spiraled and I was just like, no, I'm doing this. Like I'm giving y'all
What?
a good feel, read it for Valentine's Day, have some chocolates,
Hmm.
love the pretty book cover book, because why not?
Well, I'll be signing up ASAP. I already have my eye on it, but you've definitely sold me. You're like marketing so hard, but also stars and hearts. You like that. You like that, don't you? And it's like, I do. I do like that. And you're like, do you want that book? I'm like, I would do anything. You're like, it's not out yet. I'm like, good. You know what? And that's okay because what is an author but like a crafter of worlds? And it's like, I'm in my mind palace. I must go. And it's like, where's the prequel?
Listen, first of all, I love a good Sherlock reference, but also, yes, 100%. Yeah, I have quite a bit more. I have quite a few other books that I'm like sitting on and just trying to figure out. Because like I said, one thing about because since I'm a hybrid author, I do indie and traditional publishing, is just making sure that I don't overextend myself. Because I'm also a single mom and I have a day job and I have, a son and he's in soccer and we're doing all the
Mm,
things and so like finding that balance is something that I am still actively working on because
mm,
my creative brain wants to do all of the things. And I have to tell it, that sounds great. We will do them in due time, but like slow down, breathe
yeah.
one step at a time. So yeah, keep rocking with me. I have a lot more. I have a lot more coming. I have a lot more that I'm hoping um that I haven't even been able to announce because it's gonna hopefully be on the traditional side of publishing, which I have to be a little bit more tight-lipped about, of course.
Of
Um,
course.
but I'm so hoping that like I have some other good things to talk about later in the year on the trad side because I'm always writing something. So there's always things happening, even if I'm not allowed to say anything about them yet.
That's totally okay because we will be here waiting for your books. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You were absolutely wonderful. I hope everyone checks out 10th Muse Rebellion, Mine, Yours, and Ours. I will have all your books listed down below and your Instagram so they can stay updated on all the book boxes and all the amazing things that you're doing. Where can everyone find you on social media and where can they find your books?
Yeah, so the Peach Blossom series, the 710 Split, Relationship Mechanic, Secret Crush Book Club, usually you can find at major retailers. Of course, it just depends on stock. If you want to get some books that are already signed, you can find them at scribblesbookshop.com. She's an online signed bookstore. She's delightful, wonderful to work with. And so she has all three of those books in stock. Um, you can find me on social media on Instagram and Threads and TikTok.
Hmm.
I'm on TikTok now. My son tells me to post, at author Karmen Lee. Occasionally I will do a live here and there where I'm up way too late, more than likely writing something. Occasionally I, talk about what books I'm reading as well. And you can also find me at carmenlee.com and my newsletter is there as well. And on Patreon. I'm also on Patreon. I think also author Carmen Lee, I'm pretty sure on Patreon.
Thank you so much for coming on. You're absolutely wonderful. And everyone, please check out Carmen Lee's books. I will have everything linked in the show notes below. Like this on YouTube and subscribe, follow on Spotify, and keep reading. Stay cozy. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.